So we mentioned earlier, for people that are just joining, there are differences in the cephalopod family. We talk about the difference in the number of arms and tentacles, and the octopus has 8 arms. The squid and cuttlefish are known as decapods because they have 8 arms and 2 tentacles. And I mentioned the suckers earlier when Anne was talking about the octopus. The suckers on the tentacles are just at the end of the squid, and it's exactly the same for the cuttlefish. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a cuttlefish today, but I saw them in the market. Gannett had them in the fish market there for the last 2 weeks. So the squid's actually quite easy to prepare. The biggest problem that chefs have, that it gets overcooked and it gets tough. So your option is cook it either really, really fast, so 30 seconds on a pan or deep fat fry it, or else you need to braise it long and slow cooking so that it's cooked and nice and tender. So where do we start with the squid? The body is known as the mantle. We have a head here, and like what Anne was showing you, we have bulging eyes. It's one of the distinguishing factors of all of the cephalopods. So we have 2 bulging eyes here. We have our head here, and in the middle we have the little beak, and I'll show you that in a moment. So I'm going to prepare it from scratch so that you can all go buy your fish and prepare it whenever you go home. I have kitchen paper here ready to go. So you stick one here. So what you do is hold the body of the fish in one hand and gently pull the contents from the fish. And there may be small pieces left in the fish, and there's also this cartilage stick. It's what we call the pen, or the cartilage of the squid, and it's what gives the squid the structure. So in a cuttlefish, it's actually the cuttlefish bone that gives the structure, the one that you use for your budgies. Any if you've got a budgie, if you're in the pet shop, you buy a cuttlefish bone. So it's a plastic pen that's actually in the squid that gives it the shape. So now when that's out, it's quite pliable. These are wings, and outside of it then is a purple membrane. So all of that membrane has to come off, and it's very easy to just actually pull off the wings if it's not so slippy. So just pull off those 2 wings, just above the eyes here. Okay, so when I cut that, I've obviously cut into the ink sac, and sometimes when the fishermen actually catch the squid, they remove the ink straight away, because if they leave it in and it spills, it colours all the rest of the fish, and they don't want that to happen. Okay? So, my beak here. Anne spoke about the beak of the octopus, and this is my little beak here. So it's smaller, and as I said, it's slightly different, and when you squish it, it comes right up when you open it. Okay? So the beak is actually inedible. Like Anne said, the beak and the cartilage pen are inedible, and all the rest of it is edible. Even the internal organs can be dried out, dehydrated, and used for cooking. So I have a bowl of water beside me here to wash it. I just want to get some of that purple membrane off the top. It's a little bit slippy, harder to work on it with the gloves, but I just want to get some of it off. But all of that can be cooked. We generally cut off the end part with the suckers on it. Just cut that off now, and cut it off here about the same length, and into the water. Okay, so where the wings have been attached to the body, there's like a hard membrane along the end of it, and again, we remove it here. The Irish texture and palate's very different to European, Southern European. They love the squid and octopus. They eat it on a much firmer structure than we do. So we'll remove all of the membrane, remove all of the extra skin. And from recent research, from talking to chefs, chefs aren't totally comfortable with it because they're not used to actually cooking the squid. And that's part of the problem maybe here while you're getting the squid tough, because they're not actually sure of how to work it. So to clear out the centre of the body, just use the back of the knife up along the body. And that should take most of it up, but if it doesn't, we can actually, when we open it, we can remove the rest of it. So I'm going to do a squid soup, cut a tagliatelle from the squid. I've already cut it for the soup. It's prepared earlier, but this piece of squid, we're going to fry it on the pan. So I'll make sure all that membrane's off it. And nothing cooks faster than fish. The day prior to this, the chef reminded people that if you're unsure about fish, buy a little thermometer. And really, fish should never come more than 65 degrees when you're cooking it, because after that, it toughens it. So the wings are ready to go. We can just score them slightly so that it'll make them more tender. So when we say score, take a sharp knife and just cut it slightly. And on the wings, I'll leave those pieces. So with this now, I'm going to open it up, cut it in two. The tagliatelle that I use for the soup, I already froze tubes and I cut it on the slicer in school so that I'd have it ready, and it's here. So this is the squid rings that have been cut, and they're nice and thin because it's going to go into the soup. But for this one here, whenever you're frying it, if you want to deep fat fry it and do the calamari squid rings, you cut it into rings like this. Okay, and then you panny it. So panny it is coating it in seasoned flour, egg wash and breadcrumbs. But we found when we do it in seasoned flour, it can be bland and it needs to be seasoned. So you need to get salt and pepper into the fish, because the fish doesn't have the salt, a nice bit of lemon juice, and then panny it. And when you're panning it, we used some smoked paprika when we did it, and turmeric through it, and a little bit of cayenne pepper to give it flavour to the flour. And then it was really crisp. And again, when you're deep fat frying it, just 30 seconds in the deep fat fryer. Unfortunately, we don't have a deep fat fryer here today, but not joking you, they were really, really crisp whenever we did them like that, and really tender. So the one I am going to do today, split this in two. Okay, and we always score the inside of the fish. So again, a light cut with a knife. And if there's a few pieces here, it's okay to lift it out. And I'm just going to cut it in 4 so it's easier to move in the pan. Don't cut them too small. It's very difficult if you're trying to turn over very small pieces on the pan. I'll just try those off. And whenever they're cooked, we can cut them up a little bit smaller and just cut these tentacles in 2 or 3 as well. That's the preparation of the squid, and it's really quite simple to prepare. I think people get daunted, put off by the shape of the fish, because it's not the fish shape that we've been familiar with from our youth, or we'd see our parents using. So it is very easy to work with, as long as you see and know how to work it. We just thought, the whole idea of family service is very common at the moment, where you cook items and present them on a plate, be it a whole chicken and cut it up on a plate, or okay, thank you. That's salt for the squid, okay. So a nice drop of oil in it. But before we put it in the pan, season it, and lemon juice. So when we season, we want salt, we want pepper. And if you want to add other spices at this stage, that's fine. So a nice bit of pepper, and the pepper is blowing away. A nice bit of lemon juice. And the salt. So any type of salt, but this is actually a sea salt here. So it's really important that you don't overcook it. The other tongs ready now. Tongs ready to this off. Now, it does curl up, but that's okay. But the dressings here, what we've picked with this is like a sweet chili dressing, a pesto and a garlic mayonnaise. On the booklet we've down a tzatziki. It's a yogurt dressing with mint. I have to speak louder. Yogurt dressing with mint is in the recipe book, but even a plain mayonnaise, a garlic mayonnaise or a herb mayonnaise, the yogurt would be a healthier option to use with it. So any type of dressings like that, you can arrange them on a board, you can have your ingredients ready, just to pop them on the board, cook the fish, and if you're dining at home, serve it to the guests. So Anne mentioned about the pickles. Pickles are really, really healthy, very vogue at the minute. You can have your hot pickle or your cold pickle. The cold pickle is typically the vinegar. So something like the beetroot pickled in vinegar, or the hot pickle then is where you boil a liquid water with salt, pepper, spices, and you cool it, and then you put your different vegetables, whatever you're using, even fruit into it. And if you vacuum pack the pickle, it enforces the pickling effect in it. The process of osmosis takes place and the air is replaced by the pickle, so you get a very concentrated flavour to the pickle, and it's instant. You don't have to wait and store the pickle for 6 months. So that's the advantage of actually vacuum packing pickle mix, and we often do it. Not alone does it add flavour, it also adds colour. So where the little radishes here were white in the centre, they've absorbed pink. And if you do it something like with melon and plums, you get lovely intermingle of the colour as well. So, thank you. Anne has cooked off our squid, so you see how fast it has been to cook. We'll put it up or just leave it. And because it's been cooked fresh, we will let you sample it. That can be served on it. And the other option we could use is to do the deep fried squid rings. But again, they haven't been cooked fresh at the minute, so it's a no-go. We won't let you sample that. I think we have some cocktail sticks as well that we can put into it. The other item that we had, that we said, just for something different, weather in Ireland can be quite cold, and a soup is always appropriate. A soup can be breakfast or lunch if you're in Thailand, can be lunch or dinner, or as a snack. What I have here is a broth. The broth is made with an ordinary chicken broth, and the recipe's in the book. I added some grated ginger and grated mooli, and they give great flavour to it. Okay, so the stock has simmered here, and the other ingredients, there's no salt added to it at all, but this is a bonita rice vinegar, and just add a little bit of that into it. About a tablespoon, I'd say, and we'll taste it. And the other item I'm going to add is a soya sauce. And soya sauce, as you know, is salty. So when you're using soya sauce, you would never actually season soup or season anything until you've actually added your soya sauce. Just want to be careful with the soya sauce that we don't add too much to it. So this is my tagliatelle that I mentioned earlier. And we find that when we are using it for the soup, like I said to you, it's really, really important that it's not overcooked. So the best way to actually warm it up is in some butter, but butter isn't the healthiest option for everyone. So you just have a little piece of butter in a pot. You're going to lift it out of it, but just warm the butter slightly. And I did say about the speed of cooking is really, really important. So what I have here as well is samphire. I don't know if you're familiar with samphire. It's one of the sea vegetables. Okay, it's lovely, crunchy. It is high in sodium, so people with heart conditions should limit the amount that they eat. And when you're using it in a dish, you certainly don't add salt. And it's growing wild along all the salty marsh plains along our coast, especially in the summertime. So you'd often see it and probably wonder what it's like. It's lovely, crunchy texture, quite knobbly looking. Nice bright emerald green, and it's best when it's like that. Okay? So my butter's hot, and I can add in some squid rings, so I'm just going to do enough here. Flat jug for pouring the soup into it. So let that warm slightly, and I have some pieces ready. So the preparation of the samphire, you just remove that stalk at the base of it, because it's quite tough. But if it's small sprigs, it's fine to leave it as it is. And it gives lovely colour and gives lovely texture to a dish. So because this is an Asian type of soup, I have some shiitake mushrooms, and shiitake mushrooms are Asian in origin. And what I've done is just vacuum pack them, cook them off in a little bit of chicken stock. So all I need to do at this stage is reheat them with the squid when the squid is warming up here. And then I'm ready to pop them into the bowl. I'm going to use that, yeah. I'll use that first now. So there's butter in the pan. I'm adding in a drop of lemon juice here. Okay, the lemon, dehydrated lemon, so you could use lemon zest. This just concentrates the flavour of it. And put some here. Any who'd like lemon, if you wet your finger and want to dip it into it, it's really concentrated flavour, so it gives great flavour to it. And again, because I'm using samphire, no salt, pinch of pepper. Add some more samphire into that. And the mushrooms could be reheated separately, or I can just pop in a few pieces of the mushrooms today. So even in the saucepan here, you can see the contrast of colour, the green, the white, and the brown from the mushrooms. Oh, is that my lemon juice gone, my lemon zest that we've been minding? Oh, it's lovely. You could nearly eat it as it is. So in a bowl, doesn't matter. The portion size will be determined by the time of day, I guess, that you're eating it. Just lift that out. That's what I'm looking for. Easier to work with. Thank you. Did it not spill? So there's our soup ready to go. And we can ladle a portion of broth on top of it. So again, it's very healthy, and we have remember we have the ginger in it, we have mouli in it, and ginger has one of the old, has great medicinal properties. It's one of the old herbal remedies that would have been used. So it gives a nice subtle flavour to the soup. Okay, so there you have our soup, and I think Anne's arranging a little sample for the soup if you like. Yeah. Brought another jug there somewhere. Thank you. Lovely. So folks, there are recipe books there. Feel free to take a recipe book with you. You want a sample of the soup? Yeah, here. And you can spread the word. That's why we're here today, to start to talk, start people talking, and to try and get a little bit of exposure for the cephalopods. Because the reality is the fish supplies, the fish quotas that are being fished in Ireland are being fished out, and our population is increasing, we're eating more fish, and we need to eat a more diverse range of fish. So that's why we're actually here promoting the cephalopods today. And hopefully the next time when we're back, we'll have a bigger stand, and we'll have cuttlefish and more samples for you. So, thank you very much for your attention and your time today.